All right, hello and welcome. Brett here with clickmail.co. Before we get into the user flow and how people are going to interact with the website and what happens with the data, we're actually going to look at a resource Neil just sent over here. And I'm going to share my screen with you, and we're going to look at a little bit of mock data that we can expect to begin seeing when we get into Google Tag Manager. Now, this is one of Google Tag Managers and Google's kind of reference points and training documents on Google Tag Manager. So here you can see this is what information is going to be pulled over from the data layer. So Google Tag Manager is talking to that data layer and pulling information out of it. This is what that information and that data will look like when you're looking at it within Google Tag Manager when you're running tests. So it will say, for example, here, the event you're wanting to track is the checkout button, and that is the actual code for the checkout button. So if we were to look at the code in the website, this is what it would be. And then coming down, skipping a couple things, this is identified as the event ID of 2. And here you'll have the threshold of 90. Okay, well, it's scrolling to the threshold of 90, 90 pixels, 90 vertical height, 90%. Okay, so scroll units of 90% in which direction, the vertical direction. So here are a bunch of variables that cumulatively make this trigger, which sets off this checkout button. And again, this doesn't really make sense because you would never trigger a checkout button by scrolling down 90% of the page. You would probably do variables that have to do with, a click on the button on a certain page, something like that. But we can see the variables, we can see the trigger, we can see the event, which is essentially what the tag is tracking. And again, this is what's coming over into Google Tag Manager. Another particular thing here is value of 120. This is worth 120. One of the things that's not specified in here is the unit of value, which we would want to say is dollars. And so this is how we can track the value of a sale and port that over into analytics or ads. That's how we track the profitability of our ads. So you can begin to see why this is so important. So this is an example of the information, again, brought from the data layer and is shown to you in Tag Manager. Now, scrolling down, this is an example of the JavaScript code that is going to be put in the header of your website to run Tag Manager. And so this is just a tag, a script that is put in the website to connect your website to Tag Manager. And you'll have these. This is just very common for Google Analytics, for Google Ads, for Google Tag Manager, for any of these tracking softwares and services. This is what you're going to see: Google Tag Manager tag, and then end Google Tag Manager tag. Then you'll see your analytics or your Google Ads. One of the things maybe to be aware of with these is GTM, you'll see, is Google Tag Manager. GA is Google Ads. And my goodness, now I don't know Google Analytics because that's also GA, but they're specified with those kind of shortened here. So for example, there's GTM right there. So we know this is Google Tag Manager. Neil, off the top of your head, do you know what Google Analytics is?
GA4.
It's GA4 in the code. Okay, perfect. So there we go. So AW is Google Ads. That's AdWords. And then GA4 is Google Analytics. So this is what a script looks like on your site. Anything to add there, Neil?
Okay.
Yep.
With the abbreviations, what are you trying to like provide a general term, or
Sorry, say it again.
is GTM? Yeah, the abbreviation, the GTM
Yeah, I'm
stuff.
just trying to point out what these abbreviations are because you just see those a lot,
Uh-huh.
That was it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, for GTM, yeah, you're correct. It's GTM. For analytics, it can be just analytics, or if they can be defined as GA4.
Got it.
For Google Ads, usually they're defined as AW.
Yeah, AdWords, right. And that used to be called Google AdWords. Now it's just Google Ads.
Yeah.
But yeah, so they've kept that naming convention on AW, correct?
Yeah, you will see that when you look at the Google Ads conversion ID on the conversion action itself.
Awesome.
So it's AW. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, thank you so much. That's so helpful. And so for any of you watching, as you're engaging with different scripts on a website, you see this around, it's like, wait, hold on, what is this? Well, it'll say Google Tag Manager, but you'll also see GTM. And so you're not going to be, especially if you don't read code, like I can't code JavaScript, but I can look in here and I know some main things like Google Tag Manager start. I know what that means. I know that this is going to start the Google Tag Manager. Okay, got it. But if this said AW, I'm going to know that's AdWords start. So there's a starting function, right? Function to start the AdWords tag. That's not what I'm looking for if I'm working with Google Tag Manager. So just giving you some super basic ways to look at the code and know what's happening. All good with that, Neil? Is that on point?
Yep. All
Okay,
good.
great. So let's continue here down the page, and we're going to look at this. Now, this is an example of a data layer push. And so you'll see here, so when we're talking about a data layer, we discuss this. It is the information that goes out onto the website that Google Tag Manager, the software, can pull from and give us. So I'm going to go back up here and can give us this. So this is what Google Tag Manager receives that we can track and uses triggers and variables and all these things. Now, where do we get that? We get that from the data layer, and the data layer is pushed out in a little piece of code like this. Now, you're probably not going to have to do this, work with these too frequently, but you can see here, this is a data layer dot push. So it's taking the data from inside the website and it is pushing it outside the website so that Google Tag Manager can grab onto it so we can use it within Google Tag Manager. All that sound pretty on point, Neil?
Yep, all good.
Awesome. Okay. So in this video, we just reviewed some sort of basic data structures that you're going to be seeing as you're installing a data layer push or you're using Google Tag Manager software, and what we can expect and just kind of the basics of how things look and getting familiar with that. So as we continue into the next video, we are going to look and start understanding the user flow and how Google Tag Manager interacts with the user as they're on the site. And we'll see you there in the next video.